We've looked at AR and VR over several episodes. Very recently, alumni Sam Cole talked about his fitness VR service and his hopes that Apple's new VisionPro mixed reality headset would give a huge boost to the industry. By some accounts, Apple has been working on this product for almost 7 years. So what goes on behind the scenes? How does a company think about a new product? How do they position a new product against competitors and market it? At Business School, we teach marketing and product adoption. And today, to tell us whether Apple is following the theory or ripping it up, we have CJBS Marketing and Decision Sciences faculty, Vincent Mark. Hi, Vincent.
Hello, thank you, Conrad, for the introduction. So very nice to see all of you here. I'm looking at comment box. I mean, you really are from everywhere in the world, and some of them not necessarily in a kind of very friendly kind of time zone compared with the 12 p.m. here. So thank you very much for watching, indeed. So yeah, today, as Conrad said, so we hope to use a product as an example, a product that has not even yet been launched in the market, so to speak, to be sold in the market at large, as an example by which we talk about, let's say, whether Apple, especially as one of the really like topmost brands in the world, whether they are doing things right in terms of launching a new product, according to some of the existing most popular theory about what a new product may work. Now, so to start with, let me just go through some thoughts of mine and some introduction of what this is. By the way, I mean, so far, most of us really knows about this product is really through some promotional clips. I mean, there are some pundits and some media people who have seen that at a developers conference in June run by Apple, but otherwise, this is basically it. So this is going to be Apple's VisionPro is only going to be launched in the market by, let's say, early 2024 in the US and the rest slightly later. So this is actually a good time for us to do a bit of crystal ball, discussion on actually how do you think it will work, if so. Okay, so now, first of all, this is not a completely uncontested market. They are related products, although VisionPro would like to sort of set yourself apart, saying that we are not this. So, for example, the most one of the most well-known maybe recent one, maybe the MetaQuest series of VR device that is often positioned as a gaming kind of thing and also a virtual reality kind of thing. And in the past, we have Google Glass, which we all know. I mean, even if you see the poll, if you have been looking at the poll that Conrad has launched on what you think, you can see that Google Glass is a past example that didn't exactly work. They have already stopped, in fact, so producing. So, but these are just related. So, in fact, actually, the product so is the following. So, Conrad, could you move forward? Yeah. So, what I would try to do is to actually introduce the product, or as we know about the product now, in terms of the 4 P's in marketing. Because you see, if you want to launch a product or to bring the product to the market, you have to consider a few paradigms, a few attributes, or a few what we call the marketing mix. Okay, these are the strategic tools that you can use to launch a product, and this is how marketing researchers might like to conceptualize the whole process. So I think this is quite familiar to a lot of you, and in fact, by the way, I mean 4 P's is the core, and some service marketing people may like to extend it to, let's say, 7 P's. I don't know whether you've heard of it. So product, price, place, and promotion. And let me just try to walk through what Apple's VisionPro is in terms of all these 4 aspects. But I mean, contrary to the order here, which is kind of like a common kind of order, let's start with actually promotion, because through the sort of promotion clip that we are going to show you, you will get to have a good sense of exactly what this is. So maybe Conrad, you can actually start playing.
When you put on Apple Vision Pro, you see your world and everything in it. Your favorite apps live right in front of you, but now they're in your space. This is visionOS, Apple's first ever spatial operating system. It's familiar, yet groundbreaking. You navigate with your eyes. Simply tap to select, flick to scroll, and use your voice to dictate. It's like magic.
So that was part of the promotional video that Apple produced to showcase what some of the things that the new headset could do. And I think if I can add one more.
Pro is Apple's first ever 3D camera. Now, you can capture photos and videos with remarkable depth and relive a memory as if you're right back in the exact moment.
Hey, Dad!
That was a bit cringe, isn't it?
Yeah. So the Hey Dad bit was really like something that really got me, in a rather. But anyway, thank you, Conrad. So I think you get a brief idea of what this is. So let us go back to the slide for now. I think.
Yeah, and just a reminder, if people will have any questions, please put them in the chat or comments field, and we'll take them as we go along.
So the promotion bits, I think, is basically for now for the consumers at large. All that will be captured in this clip. And if you go to YouTube, you have a longer one where they have several scenarios of usage followed by a description of the specs. So Conrad, I think you can move on to the next one. Yeah. Yeah, and this is the YouTube clip, which 9 minutes thing. So, and then afterwards, so therefore I can now maybe introduce more about the product. So, as you can see in the clip, so what the product is, as also like according to Apple, is that this is not virtual reality. This is what we call mixed reality, and or in fact, what Apple call it is not even like any reality, but spatial computing. So computing in space in a that kind of way, and with 3D visuals sometimes, and with 3D navigation as well, and apparently using eyes as well as what they call the haptic kind of control, fingers and in the air and that sort of thing. And there is an adjustable immersiveness about it. So if you see some visuals, there are photos, videos, etc., you can make it big or you can make it small, and you can be very, very immersive, or you can really like shrink it, and so that you can also see the other things around you in your current real environment, so to speak. Another thing that Apple has done is that they emphasize the productivity. So some of these clips, if you see the full one, is about like work and how you can help work, how you can help like online meetings, for example, and well, a little bit of entertainment, like watching a movie. So how wearing that can allow you to have this sort of really big screen experience as well if you blow up the videos, and also like the chip is so good that the resolution will be fine. Even if you make it really big and encompassing, so to speak, and also like emphasize communications, but you emphasize less on what some other of this sort of gadgets like to emphasize, like gaming. Now, there is a part of that clip actually that is on gaming, but it's almost like, like the fifth scenarios of usage, that sort of thing. Not much about fitness. There is a little bit about navigation in the internet, but it's all like as part of like how to use it for communications or work. So it's really like a little bit of less emphasis on some of these areas that are emphasized by some other like related, not necessarily directly competent gadgets, especially those in virtual reality. And lastly, it is a mobile device. Now, being a mobile device, you need a battery, and there is a part in the clip, if you watch the full one, that said that the battery is good. But then, however, actually some of those industry users who managed to try it out sort of have some problems about the battery as well. So this is a slightly of a moot point as far as I could sort of glance from the media buzz so far on this. So this is largely what the product is. So this is one aspect of what you can do in order to make a new product work. First of all, to design the product in a way that you hope it will work. And I'll go back to it later on in terms of how we can look at try to predict whether it will work given all of these aspects. So let's move on to the next P, which is price. Very simple, just one number. 3,000. Well, I mean, let's forget about the lack of rounding up. $3,500. Are you willing to share it out to get this thing? Well, I mean, if you do, I would like to have you as a friend. Obviously, you really would be willing to do that. Good. Now, however, the price is actually considered to be relatively high, if you allow me to say. And also, like, for example, if you compare it with like the Meta series of product Quest, okay, so the current one I think is about $1,000 or so, and they are going to launch a new one that will be much cheaper apparently next year, sometime this year. And so this is really like high end, definitely. But of course, Apple is high end, as we know, but that high end is something that we may have to consider. Okay, and so the next one is the next P, the final P in this sequence is the place. Now, what place means is how you sell your stuff, how you organize your supply chain or your marketing channel, as the marketing people would like to call it. So in this case, I think we would expect that it would be sold primarily in Apple stores. That is actually, as I hope to convey later on in this discussion, actually that could be a very important point for the device success, if so. And then also, of course, we may expect that it will also be sold in other retailers as well, just like you know, other Apple products mostly. So these are largely kind of like the marketing mix features that Apple could be using, as we can see now in marketing VisionPro. Okay, now let's see, you know, let's try to, you know, look at this from the lens of a framework that is actually, that has a lot of vintage in marketing, but is still very much like time honored, so to speak, in terms of whether a product may succeed or not, a new product may succeed or not. It's called the Rogers 5 factors. It was first proposed by a famous communication scholar called Everett Rogers. And this is really like a very handy set and very practical set of factors that you may consider if you want to launch a new product, regarding whether something will work or not, as you see it. And it is the question, the general remit of these 5 factors are what affects a new product's rate of diffusion, affects its rate of really going out in the market, spreading, getting spread. And there are 5 of them. One is relative advantage versus existing alternatives. That is, you know, and let's not consider it from the point of view of the gadget. Let's say if you want to use an app well, how much relative advantage will this VisionPro provide to you over and above the existing methods that you can use to access, for example, all your apps or do FaceTime or whatever? By the way, talking about FaceTime, which is the kind of online meeting thing for Apple, as you know, in this case, you may wonder how you can do that kind of thing wearing a goggle like that. So apparently, actually, your face gets scanned by the gadget at the beginning before usage, and the gadget will use the scanned result as a kind of like avatar for yourself with AI, all this development to actually present you in the form of your avatar, which apparently is going to be very much like you, and in your FaceTime meeting. So consider that. So you are actually meeting somebody online, and people could see your face, even expression, etc. But actually that is all AI and avatar. Okay, and do you think that is a relative advantage, and how much of a relative advantage that is versus existing alternatives? For example, looking at the screen and, you know, talking. Now this is compatibility with existing experiences. So I mean, that is, you have your daily life here. You know, just imagine from the point of view of a consumer, okay, wearing that like in an indoor setting. By the way, all the clip is about indoor setting, not going outdoors, which is very much different from the Google Glass approach, if you remember that. So compatibility, is it compatible with your existing experience of you know, life in general? And the third one is complexity. So this is certainly state-of-the-art gadget, but you know, is it too complex for you to use? Is it not complex enough? Well, actually, some people like a bit of, you know, tweaking when it comes to gadget. It depends on the segment. But you know, it's certainly one important point for something to work or not. And then the fourth one is trialability. That is, whether you really can have sort of limited experimentation opportunities for you to really trial and see whether it works for you before you commit, for example, which will be great. And this will also help to facilitate the diffusion. And finally, observability, which is about whether this will become the social thing. If other people use it, you can see that they use it, and you can feel that people are using it, and then maybe you would sort of urge you to also adopt it as well. So all of these are factors that could really help a product's rate of diffusion. Now, let me just try to see, how all these 5 factors sort of like fare in terms of the 4 Ps. Now, usually when people look at Rogers' 5 factors, they really only analyze that in terms of the product bit, not the price, place, and promotion. But I think in our case, we can be a little bit more casual and just see how these 4 Ps that that Apple has used will be able to help to facilitate consumers' perception of the product in terms of all these 5 aspects. Now, so I leave this blank in this table intentionally because I don't want to impose any kind of conclusions. Okay, here maybe you will have your own take on all of this discussion, but I feel that the whole point is, if you run your own business, if you want to launch your own product, for example, you may like to put up something like this and see how each of the marketing methods you are using will help you to persuade consumers in terms of these 5 factors. Now let's look at the product. Okay, so relative advantage, I have already talked about that. I mean, maybe the main relative advantage part of it is are the 3D visuals that you may be able to get, and also the fact that you can have a very immersive experience that gets very flexible. I mean, at a click, almost literally of the finger, you can already like go back to reality. Compatibility. Well, wearing a goggle wearing this gadget in a room, and is that really compatible with your usual life? But then on the other hand, Apple does make it very clear that you can actually switch back to real life very quickly. So capacity, I think I've already talked about it. Trialability. So is it really that trialable? So maybe, and it really goes to the place bit that I will talk about very soon. Observability. So if you use it now, all the scenarios that Apple proposed in the clip seem to be like indoor. So that means, unlike Google Glass, which actually has its own kind of risk, pros and cons about like sort of marketing like as an outdoor kind of thing, is it that observable? But again, when I come to the place bit of this short discussion, I may go further into that. So in terms of the price, $3,500, okay, US dollars. Now, it doesn't look like a relative advantage, you think? Yeah. And compatibility, does it really look like you pay $300 and $500 for this? I mean, it depends on the segment. I mean, by the way, all of this, if you want to dig into more depth, you will have to consider what segment are we talking to. But let's not go into that for now, because after all, Apple does have this tradition of trying to really hit the whole world, right? So therefore, the whole world is a segment for them. So compatibility. So is it that compatible? Well, I think price doesn't quite affect the complexity bits, but maybe a little bit of trialability. You cannot just let's spend some money and buy it and then try it, and if not return it. I mean, it's a little bit like you wouldn't expect something like that. So also like the high price may also limit observability. Now, place. The fact that Apple has its own store where the product can be placed together with all these iPhones and iPads, etc., may actually give it like a good chance of showing that it can be just used like any Apple products in a compatible, like a daily life situation. And it also could reassure consumers that, I mean, it is just as easy to use as like sleek as to be used as other Apple products. Okay, and also like because they have their own stores, trialability and observability may be facilitated by this place advantage. Now, finally, promotion. So whether the clip actually tells you that it has a lot of relative advantage of with respect to others, whether the clips are effective in that, I will leave it up to you. And also like whether the clip, the YouTube clip and other marketing apparatus will help you, will convince you that it is compatible is also something, I mean, I'm not quite sure, to be frank. Now, But I want to say, well, promotion could also like enhance all this, and it depends on how Apple really does further promotion after it is launched in the market at large. But I want to say one thing though. I mean, in terms of this, promotion, in the past, Apple, of course, was famous for this really dazzling presentation where Steve Jobs, bless him, would just hold this iPhone and then look extremely cool. Now imagine Tim Cook standing there in front of a screen and start wearing that gadget. And would it look really as cool, as a kind of promotional kind of thing? I don't know. But what I want to say is that I don't even want to arrive at a conclusion through this. What I want to say is that if you want to launch your new product, or if you want to look at your competitors' new product and try to, make some guess about what you might do try to use this approach. I think this is a very helpful way for you to, get your head around, whatever is happening, and to sort of tease out the different bits of the issues. So now, I think I have already got a few questions.
Yes. Yeah. So thanks so much.
Talk about a question. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Vincent. And before we go to the questions, just a reminder, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments field in either YouTube or LinkedIn, and we'll take them. Before we go to the questions, actually, we ran a short poll just before this. So asking you what you think would be the success of Apple's Vision Pro. And we can see here that most of you think it will be a success, but it won't be a huge iPhone type of success. It will be something like a watch where the product looks the same year on year. They may do a few tweaks. Maybe it looks different bands or colors, but not a huge success. 27% think that it will fizzle out after a few years, just like the iPod. Having said that, the iPod went for like 10 years. So that was pretty good run. But it later, I think what happened was the iPod became a feature, right? It was quite obviously, it was a feature, it wasn't a standalone product, and it got put into a bigger product platform, which was the phone. 20% think this is going to be the next iPhone moment. We're going to see 1 billion of these. I mean, that's what I think the iPhone is like hundreds of millions, and when you think about smartphones all around the world, it's several billion. And there's a small group who think this will flop. All right, so you can definitely think about this as we talk through. You could also answer the next question, which is, after hearing Vincent, right, what do you think? And we can see how that changes, right? So if you want, you can take the QR code, or you can go on slido.com and key in the event code number 2142295. In the meantime, Vincent, we have two questions on price. So Saswati asked, if Apple's a high-class brand and they can show their pricing up front, do you recommend showcasing the price when marketing a new product, or does it really not matter? And in the case of Vision Pro, it's not, nobody's going to get their hands on it for another at least 6 months, but they come out and say, this is the price.
Yeah, that is a very interesting question, because high-class brand. Actually, when you talk about high-class brand, we may also talk about all these luxury brands, right? So, and you ask, the question is, should we show the pricing up front, just perhaps as a way to really, sort of stake their claim as if they are being high class? But I was thinking, all these luxury brands, they really seldom really show price up front, right? I mean, even though an LV bag is extremely expensive, but you do not see them like listing the numbers up front, like as let's say the new flagship product, for example. So perhaps the practitioners would think that this may not be a good thing to do. What I would think is that, what does a price do? A price actually makes you think of money. Okay, so if you want to market your product as a high-class brand, as a brand that really conveys high value, high quality, you actually don't want people to think of anything like money. I mean, you want people to think of, all this really more high level like values about usage, life transformation and and also being cool and that sort of thing, and not exactly like your ability to really like pay a lot of money. So perhaps it really is not something that practitioners might consider easily doing in terms of marketing a new product. I don't think it is something that would really help market a high-class brand. My take on this is the following. Now, however, in the case of Apple, they really have to give out the price point, so therefore they did that. I do not see that they are really like making a huge fuss about it. And I think this is also slightly controversial among the pundits as well. I mean, yeah, okay, Apple is high class, but I mean, is it so high class that it can just kind of like charge you 3,500 for this cutting edge gadget with really great specifications? I mean, if you look at the latter part of this of the clip, is really quite state of the art. So that's my take on your question. But thank you very much indeed. This is a very nice issue to think about. Yeah. By the way, before going to the next one, I just want to say Conrad was very right that I mean saying that you will fizzle out after a few years, like the iPod as on the poll. Well, the iPod didn't exactly fizzle out, but get sort of like absorbed into the next generation of success, so to speak, the iPhone. So, but indeed, it was like it was like more like in hindsight, but not necessarily during that time. In hindsight, it was something that move on to become part of something even more like phenomenal. So Conrad made a very good point. Thank you. So anyway, so next one maybe, Conrad. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another question about pricing. So someone on LinkedIn asked, "What is the driver?" I think it's two questions. Why do we quote prices like a non-round number 3,499 and not 3,500, especially since it's a premium product? And I think the next question is more about what is pricing strategy like? Are you looking at input costs, things like product and advertising costs, or is there other factors when you think about pricing a product?
Okay, very very good point. So the first one is there is this number 9 effect that I think you all must have experienced, even when going to a supermarket, okay, and has been researched like rather extensively in marketing, consumer behavior research. Now, I think this is a very good question. I mean, come on, they are already selling it at such a high price. Do we really need to do the 499 thing? I don't know. I mean, I would doubt it actually. So if you look at the pricing of, let's say, even the Quest, for example, the Meta Quest, I'm not sure they do this kind of thing. So is it really necessary? Well, maybe this would be useful on the margin for people who really have the final doubt as to, I kind of like really like on the margin as to, should I really do this or should I not? But I think the number 9 effect in this case probably is much less important than, as you say, more non-premium products where you want to mass sell. But on the other hand, you may think that Apple already has its eyes on the mass selling aspect of it. They might be actually betting on the fact that despite being that expensive, it would become something like a mass selling product, in which case maybe you can have this and somehow this becomes a new reasonable price point, then it's okay. So what I mean is that whether something is premium is something of a fluid sort of concept. Maybe Apple is thinking that, well, it is not going to be that premium after all, in which case a number 9 effect may help on the price. Now, second, how much of the product's price is driven by promotion versus pricing strategy? I have a feeling that actually for the case of practitioners, actually they would certainly incorporate the promotion in their pricing strategy. What I mean is that promotion is kind of like a upfront fixed cost to launch a product, right? So therefore, if you want to actually figure out whether something is going to turn a profit for you, then you would certainly incorporate that in terms of the pricing. So I don't think it's a matter of versus, it's a matter of like incorporation. So I think if I have to answer this question like regarding that versus bit, I think promotion is definitely the promotion cost is definitely part of the pricing strategy. But I think in the case of Apple, I feel that actually the R&D cost is probably going to be much more important in determining the price than the promotion cost. I mean, of course, this is all very slick, all the YouTube and the clips and stuff. But I think the R&D cost, look at the specs and also what they have to go through in order to get that product out to have all this really like competitive quality for such a product. I think the R&D cost is going to be must have been much more of a factor there. And I mean, I haven't even touched on like the marginal cost, which is like all this cost about like manufacturing the product with all the OEMs around the world. But I think the main part will be the R&Ds. So, but I think to give a short answer to this question, I think it sort of prompts me to talk about the whole idea of what does it mean by pricing strategy. But then to give a short answer, it's like it's driven by promotion as part of the pricing strategy rather than versus. So that would be my answer. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. And just a reminder, if you can go down to Slido and put your views, especially after you've heard Vincent talk about the 4 Ps and the 5 factors. We've got the next question from Tim, and Tim's question is a lot more about actually is this a standalone product, or actually is this part of a larger ecosystem, right? Of different products, different consumers as well, right? And maybe that's the reason why this one of the big comparative strengths of platforms like or companies like Apple, where they have this ecosystem. Vincent, how do you think something like this mixed reality headset would play within a tech ecosystem?
So yeah, thank you, Conrad, and thank you, Tim, for this very perceptive question as well. So I mean, all that we can know, we know as consumers about VisionPro is basically from those promotional videos. I think at one point they say that it can be connected to your MacBook very sort of readily, and you just look at it. Basically, you just look at your MacBook and that's it. So you can connect the two. So I feel that in some cases, sometimes the manufacturers may try to sort of like use this sort of bait and hope strategy, where if you're already an Apple customer, then you really have to get this VisionPro in order to operate some of this stuff really efficiently. But however, there is also a risk there. I mean, it's like if you are going to do that, some people may just completely ditch the whole set of product if they feel that this is expensive and they seem to be like sort of held hostage, so to speak, by this company, especially at a high price point. Now, I feel that what Apple may do is to say that VisionPro can help you integrate yourself with this ecosystem better. But it's not like in a way such that you cannot live without VisionPro in order to work in this ecosystem. So, and as for whether there is any relative advantage in that, I feel that I mean, at least from what I can see, if you can continue to use App Store and iCloud like before, then the whole point of having VisionPro is that while you are watching a video like in a kind of immersive experience, you can suddenly at your own will sort of switch to operating the app. Or for example, you can have all the apps, all the icons floating in the air in front of you in the middle of your room, like in that mixed reality background, and it sounds fun. Yeah, that's all I can see. So therefore, I think so far I do not see Apple trying to do much about using this advantage, and I feel that they will have to think of very interesting way to make use of that in a way that wouldn't have pushback from the customers, if you know what I mean, especially considering the price point. Yeah. But thank you, Tim. This is a good question again. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have, I think, 2 questions which are asking you to, Vincent, to look at the road ahead. I mean, this is a new product, and obviously someone like Apple, where they're almost trillion-dollar company. They want to sell loads of things and they want to have a long roadmap. So Muhammad Hamza asks, how do you see the technology adoption curve for such products? And I think a kind of related question is from one of our recent alums, Taylor.
Yeah.
Taylor asks, Apple is an established brand with loyal customers and a large R&D budget. This may not necessarily be a product being sold in market for revenue generation at this point in time. So she thinks that the product strategy could be an alternative to how we think about the product marketing mix, in that they're trying to get this to market, to price test, capture user feedback, find use cases that are useful to invest in moving forward. And she actually has a question. It's a bit too long to be displayed, but her question is, Vincent, how might you think about the product strategy? How could that influence what is important or not when it comes to thinking about the product marketing? So what is that interplay between product strategy and product marketing?
Okay. So thank you, Conrad, for reading this out. And also thank you, Mohammed and Taylor, for these questions as well. So I think both of them indeed are related. These are about, like, could this be just part of a long game, so to speak? Okay. So I mean, in terms of new product pricing, actually, these two questions are very, very useful for me to talk about. In terms of new product pricing, there is this, sort of duality of kind of pricing strategies. One is the penetration pricing strategy. That is, you really price it cheap in order to get as many installed customer base as possible to exploit the network effect. The other one is probably what Apple is trying to do, which is what we call the scheme pricing. I feel that the $3,500 probably is there to attract the people who really want to use cutting-edge gadgets and who just want to try it out and just try to, probably some of them will be KOLs, and some of them will really be able to spread the word if they think it's good. And also, Apple actually can, I think some of you have already hinted at that, actually, Apple has a fan community. And a fan community, what they do is like they really would be able to go to the ends of the world in order to spread the gospel. So hopefully this will be part of that gospel. And then in which case, this is a kind of scheme pricing strategy where they attract the most staunch believers and those people who really would like to try out and who probably would be willing to embrace this sort of thing more than the common folk, so to speak. And then they want to capture the buzz. They want to, create a sense of, awe in the part of the community that really creates opinion. And hopefully, from that point on, what they do next is probably to cut the price, to reduce the price, and to release new versions that are more like common consumer friendly in terms of, let's say, for example, price points as well. This is possible, and this may be what, for example, MetaQuest is already doing, for good or for bad. And this may be something that is going on. But however, we wouldn't quite know because, I think you have also already mentioned, maybe it would just, be dead in water. It just doesn't quite work. And maybe also it is also a way for Apple to buy some time to see whether this approach may work. This sort of experiences have any market at all. So yeah, I think all of this is quite possible. And I think what the lessons learned from here is that, okay, so is this something that is like a game that is only exclusive for companies like Apple? Okay, or can you do it if you are just a new startup and trying to really launch something very cutting edge? Well, I think this is food for thought. Yeah, I think that is what I would say here.
Yeah, and it just reminds me, Vincent, that when the iPhone first came out, Apple thought, or Steve Jobs positioned it as, you can watch video in better than ever before in a mobile environment. It's great for making phone calls. I think that was one of the things that was in the keynote. Great for making phone calls and great for looking on the web. And nobody could have guessed at that point that the big thing that would really boost the smartphone market would be social media, navigation with maps, and later on 4G, so that you could get things like services like Uber. So I think that, going back to what Taylor was saying, that maybe this is part of it, is to go out and see what is that killer app that would really drive adoption.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. In fact, a lot of these new product successes are completely accidental, you can say, and also completely like against what the manufacturer thought it would be. And so therefore, if you are thinking of those things, maybe, don't try to think too hard. Just try to take the plunge and see whether you go bankrupt or become a billionaire overnight. Sorry about that. This is a joke. So anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a question from Carl, who is an EMBA alum. And Carl asks, how can some products break the rules on promotion? Where you've got great products built with little or no advertising.
Yeah. Thank you, Carl. So actually, the other day I was at a seminar by an MBA alum who worked with Xiaomi, the Chinese brand, and talk about how they try to expand in the Indian market like some years ago. And so one of the things was like this zero advertising budget. Okay, so how does it work? So I think there is one thing about promotion that I think I should have emphasized more. The best way to promote your product is not to advertise, but to do it through word of mouth. So, and also all that it entails. That is, don't promote the product yourself. Try to get other people to promote the product for you, and other people who are not related to you. That is, they don't have a skin in the game, and people would trust them. So actually, there is this slightly mythic sort of thing about what is the one central market research question you should ask in a survey if people don't have more time for you, is about how likely is it that the consumer will recommend your product to other people. So recommendation, word of mouth is very important. And doing those things may cost you very little if you do them well. I mean, run an event where you just meet with some of your fans very, very casually. For example, you can even post such an event on Facebook and then people will gather, or just try to work on your social media in ways that is not like, like very much like hard pushing, but just try to, nudge people to talk about you. And it doesn't really even need to be about like paying KOLs, lots of money to feature your product. And there can be many ways to do it, especially in the age of social media and in the age of SEO, by the way, as well. So therefore, it's not about breaking the rules of promotion per se, I guess. It's about the fact that the contemporary world, the world of social media really allow you and facilitates promotion at a much lower budget and in much more inventive and way with more channels than perhaps in the past. So I think that is like, it's not that these companies have become much more smart. Well, they definitely are very smart, but also the world has become much more different to allow this sort of things to happen.
We have time, I think, for one last question. So this is from Aaron. Aaron asks, how did consumer adoption of things like Oculus influence Apple's decision to launch a product like VisionPro? And I just want to show actually a comment from Christoph Grundig, who feels that Oculus is very much for gaming, whereas Apple is trying to create hardware for this where you can use in the real world and not be so cut off. What's your take, Vincent?
So thank you, Aaron and Christoph. So again, the questions are related. So that is Apple. I mean, I think also it was mentioned that anything that has been launched in this kind of big area provides a lesson learned for whatever comes afterwards. So Apple obviously seems to have learned from all the meta initiatives. That is, gaming probably may not be a way to go, and also they want to differentiate themselves. So therefore, they try to steer away from that and say that this is not about gaming. This is not even about virtual reality, but it is about, like, say, a mixed reality. So this is like one way of differentiation, and they even call it, as I say, spatial computing. They even avoid the word reality, so they want to steer away. So that is a very well taken point. And then secondly, as Christoph said, after Aaron, so that is, that may be a way for Apple to create its own sort of types of market that it has a first sort of entry to, and that is distinctive hopefully in consumers' perception, by the way, from the Oculus or from the Quest sort of environment. So that's very good. So that is these are competitors who try to differentiate from each other, even though they are largely developing in the same broad field. So this is one way of them trying not to be too sort of like cutthroat, so to speak. Yeah.
And I think Apple famously never tries to be the first one into a market. They look at see how it shakes out, and then they think about how they can enter that market. So that I wanted to go back to this question or this poll, which I put up just after midway through the live stream. So if you remember, most people thought it was going to be like an Apple Watch kind of success. There were a few people who thought it'd be more like an iPod, and there were some people who even thought it would be either flop or an iPhone type of success. So now, after all of that, these are the results. So after your talk, Vincent, I think there's more convergence into thinking that it's not quite going to be a home run like the iPhone, not going to be a flop, but it's going to be somewhere in between. Vincent, I got to ask you, so where do you think it's going to land? How would you vote?
I would actually think of the second one because iPod, as we discussed, didn't necessarily fizzle out. It sort of morphed into something else. I think this trend is going to continue. Something like that is going to continue, and then there will be new generations of product coming up that is built on earlier success or not, and so therefore this may be something that will quote unquote fizzle out and become something else and be absorbed into something else after a few years. And hopefully we will be living in a world soon where we will be wearing things and then control our app when they are part of the reality, but in a way that we may not be able to predict even now. That's what I think. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Vincent, for showing us the theory and how Apple is following some of it or maybe doing it their own way. The balance sheet is taking a summer break, and I want to thank all of you, the viewers, who have followed the series this season. In the past year, we've had more than 30 episodes looking at topics such as AI, leadership, healthcare, and HR. And if you're on summer holidays, go to our playlist and you can catch up on all of these episodes. It's been great seeing the audience, you, engage with our guests, but also making connections with one another. We'll be back in the second half of September with another full program of content. Till then, stay safe, and we'll see you then.